Long ago, in a land shrouded in mystery and myth, there was a kingdom known as Yung Cherland. Nestled between towering mountains and deep valleys, the people of Yung Cherland lived in harmony with nature. They believed that the forests, rivers, and skies were inhabited by powerful spirits. Among these spirits, the most revered and feared was the Great Serpent, a colossal being said to dwell deep in the heart of the Dragon Mountains. The legend spoke of a serpent with scales as dark as midnight and eyes that shimmered like moonlight on water. The creature was said to be so massive that when it moved, the earth trembled, and when it wept, the rivers swelled. But this was not just a tale of legends and gods. This was a story of love and sorrow, of two hearts torn apart by fate, bound forever by the tears of the giant serpent. In a small village on the edge of Yung Cherland, there lived a young woman named Lian. She was the daughter of a humble farmer, but there was nothing ordinary about her. With her long, flowing hair, as black as the night, and eyes as bright as the morning sun, Lian had a beauty that captured the heart of everyone she met. But more than her beauty, it was her spirit that made her stand out. She was bold, curious, and unafraid to explore the world beyond her village. While others feared the ancient myths that warned against venturing too far into the mountains, Lian was fascinated by them. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains and bathed the land in a warm golden hue, Lian sat by the river, her feet dangling in the cool water. She watched as the last rays of sunlight danced on the surface of the river, her thoughts wandering to the stories her grandmother used to tell her. "They say the serpent sleeps deep in the mountains," her grandmother had said, her voice trembling with age and wonder. "And when it wakes, the skies cry with it. The river you see, my child, these waters, they are its tears." Lian had always brushed it off as a story, but as she grew older, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the myths. She felt a pull toward the mountains, as if they were calling to her, whispering secrets only she could hear. That evening, as Lian stared at the mountains, she made a decision. She would go. She would find the truth behind the legend of the serpent. She stood up, her resolve firm, but little did she know that her journey would lead her not only to the answers she sought, but also to a love that would change her life forever. The following morning, Lian packed her things, just enough food and water to last her a few days, and set off toward the Dragon Mountains. The path was steep and treacherous, but she moved with a quiet determination, her heart pounding with excitement. As she climbed higher, the air grew colder, and the dense forests gave way to rocky cliffs. The world below became a distant memory, and Lian felt as if she had stepped into another realm altogether. On the second day of her journey, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the landscape, Lian stumbled upon a cave. Its entrance was hidden behind a thick curtain of vines, and if it hadn't been for a soft, shimmering glow emanating from within, she might have missed it entirely. Intrigued, Lian pushed aside the vines and stepped inside. The air was cool, and the walls of the cave seemed to pulse with an ethereal light. At the center of the cave, lying curled upon a bed of stones, was a man. Or, at least, that's what Lian thought at first. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and his eyes, when he opened them, were the color of silver, gleaming like the surface of a still lake. "Who are you?" Lian whispered, her voice trembling slightly. The man sat up slowly, his gaze fixed on her. "I am Zhen," he said, his voice soft but powerful, like the rumble of distant thunder. "And you are not supposed to be here." Lian felt a shiver run down her spine, but she stood her ground. "I'm searching for the truth about the Great Serpent," she said. "The one the legends speak of." Zhen's eyes darkened, and for a moment the air in the cave grew colder. "The Great Serpent is not just a legend," he said, his voice heavy with sorrow. "It is real, and it is my curse." Lian's breath caught in her throat. "Your curse?" Zhen nodded. "I am the serpent, or at least I was." He paused, his silver eyes meeting hers. "Long ago, I angered the gods. In their wrath, they transformed me into the serpent that you seek. For centuries I lived in the mountains, a creature of myth and terror. But when my heart grew heavy with sorrow, the gods took pity on me. They allowed me to take human form once more, but only for a time. When the moon is full, I return to my serpent form. And when I weep, the land weeps with me." Lian's heart ached for him. "What could you have done to deserve such a fate?" she asked, stepping closer. Zhen lowered his gaze. "I loved someone I should not have. She was mortal, and I was bound to the gods. Our love was forbidden, and in their jealousy, the gods tore us apart. They condemned me to wander the earth as a serpent, never to know love again." Lian's chest tightened with emotion. She could feel the weight of his pain, the depth of his sorrow. And yet, standing before him now, she felt something stir within her, something she couldn't explain. "I don't believe in fate," she said quietly. "I believe we make our own choices." Zhen looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and despair. If only it were that simple. Over the next few days, Lian and Zhen grew closer. She stayed by his side, listening to his stories of the gods, the mountains, and the love he had lost. He told her of the nights when he would transform back into the serpent, of the pain and loneliness that came with it. And though he tried to push her away, to protect her from the curse that bound him, Lian refused to leave. "I don't care about the curse," she said one evening as they sat by the fire. "I care about you." Zhen shook his head, his eyes filled with sadness. "You don't understand, Lian. If you stay with me, the gods will punish you too. They do not allow love between mortals and those bound to them." Lian reached out, taking his hand in hers. "Let them try," she said softly. "I would rather face their wrath than live a life without you." Zhen stared at her, his heart torn between the love he felt for her and the fear of what the gods might do. But in that moment, as he looked into her eyes, he knew that he could no longer deny his feelings. "I love you, Lian," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Lian smiled, her heart swelling with joy. "And I love you, Zhen." For a time they were happy. They lived together in the mountains, hidden away from the rest of the world, their love a secret shared only by the stars and the wind. But the gods were watching, and their jealousy had not faded. One night, as the full moon rose high in the sky, Zhen's curse took hold once more. His body twisted and contorted, his skin turning to scales, his eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Lian watched in horror as the man she loved transformed before her eyes, his anguished cries echoing through the mountains. But this time, something was different. The transformation was not complete. Zhen's body remained half human, half serpent, a grotesque fusion of man and beast. He writhed in agony, his silver eyes pleading with Lian to leave, to save herself. "I can't leave you," she sobbed, rushing to his side. "I won't." But the gods had already made their decision. A great storm began to brew, dark clouds swirling above the mountains. The wind howled, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. And then, from the sky, a voice boomed, cold and merciless. "You have defied us for the last time." Lian clung to Zhen, her heart pounding with fear. "Please," she cried, looking up at the sky. "Please don't take him from me." But the gods showed no mercy. With a flash of lightning, Zhen's body was torn from hers, his serpent form fully taking over. He let out a final, heart-wrenching roar as he was dragged back into the mountains, disappearing into the darkness. Lian collapsed to the ground, her sobs echoing through the storm. She had lost him. The gods had taken him from her, just as they had taken his first love. For days, Lian wandered the mountains, searching for any sign of Zhen. But he was gone. The cave where they had shared their love was empty, the fire long since burned out. And then, one night, as she sat by the river, staring into its depths, she saw something. A single tear, shimmering like silver, floating on the surface of the water. She reached out, her fingers brushing against it, and in that moment, she knew. Zhen was still with her. His tears, like the river, would flow forever. And so, Lian stayed by the river, waiting for the day when they would be reunited. And though she never saw him again, she knew that their love, like the tears of the giant serpent, would endure for all eternity.